So in the next few lessons, we're going to look at integrating what I would call proper or production-ready databases into your ExpressJS applications. And probably one of the most popular choices for people learning ExpressJS is to use a NoSQL database solution called MongoDB. You'll see why it's quite a popular choice when you're learning to code in just a second, but it is a database system that allows you to create a large amount of data which can be held in a scalable way, usually across several different data centers all over the world. And it's probably worth mentioning at this point as well, before we dive too deep into MongoDB, that there's no reason why you can't use a more traditional relational database management system, such as MySQL or Postgres, when you're creating your ExpressJS applications, and indeed a lot of web apps do go down this more traditional route of managing their data. But we're going to stick with the MongoDB solution for the rest of our course, and it's what you generally find on other Node.js courses. Okay, so enough talking, let's actually get started with using MongoDB. And I'd recommend to actually download a copy of the MongoDB software and install it onto your computer, especially while you're just learning what it is and how to use it. A lot of guides and courses take you to a hosted or cloud solution straight away, but I think it's important to have something on your local machine that you can explore and experiment with. So head over onto the MongoDB download site and select the server option, and it should automatically recognize your operating system, and you can just download the installer and follow through the various steps to get up and running. So for the rest of this lesson, we're just going to explore how MongoDB operates, what sort of data it stores, and how you might start to incorporate it into your ExpressJS applications. So with your MongoDB download, you'll actually get access to a graphical user interface to access data in a MongoDB instance, and that tool is called Compass. So if Compass doesn't run automatically after you've installed MongoDB, just find the program on your computer and run it from there. It can take a few minutes to get warmed up, but once it's ready, you'll see a screen like this, where you're being asked to connect to a particular MongoDB host. And you'll see by default it's connecting onto localhost, which is the MongoDB instance that we just installed from the website a moment ago. And you don't really need to worry about any of the other settings if you just scroll down and click connect. You'll see a page where it lists all of the databases on your MongoDB server, and there's a button at the top where we can create a new one. So let's create a new database now. So you're asked to give your database a name, and also a name for something called a collection. So if you're familiar with MySQL or Postgres, a collection would be similar to a table, in that it's the place where it holds all of your data, and similar to the blog projects that we've done before, we created a table called posts to hold all of the blog post data. So let's just go ahead and create that database and collection now. And now if we click on the BlogDB database, you'll see we've got our posts collection listed. So if we actually click onto that now, it takes us to an interface where we can actually create new records, run queries to find records, and also update and delete the data that's in our collection. So we're going to run through those 4 operations quickly, just so you can relate it back to when we created our blog post application. And the first thing we'll do is actually create a new record. So in NoSQL databases like MongoDB, we don't actually call our entries of data records or rows. They're referred to as documents. And a document pretty much looks like a JSON string. So if you're familiar with dealing with data from an API, for example, or like sending JSON data back from an express route like we did a few lessons ago, the structure of this data is going to look very familiar. So clicking the Insert Document button actually gives us a modal pop-up that allows us to create a new document. So you can see I've created what looks like a JavaScript object essentially, that has a title, author, date and content for our blog post, and MongoDB's actually assigned it a unique ID already. So if we need to reference this particular document, we can use that to make changes to it. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that now. And you can see the document now appears in our posts collection. So hopefully you can see why this format would be great for using with an ExpressJS application, or indeed any other JavaScript-based application, because the data in the database is in a similar format to how JavaScript objects are formatted. And one of the most flexible things about documents is that they don't need to all follow the same structure. So for example, in our posts collection, we can insert documents that don't have all of the same fields as the first document that we created. and even the names of the fields don't have to have the same values. So when we go back to ExpressJS, we'll be able to use the insert function provided by the MongoDB libraries to actually insert data into our collections. We can also update these documents once they've been added to our collections, and in Compass we can simply use the pencil icon to change any of the data inside of the document. And you can also see that there's a delete option, so if we've got some documents that we want to remove from a collection, we can just hit the trash icon from inside Compass. And again, the ExpressJS Mongo library will have functions built in for us to be able to perform these operations. And finally, we'll also get access to functions that will enable us to find documents within our collection. So there are functions for retrieving all of the documents in a collection, for example, but we can also filter that on a particular field. So here in Compass, we can do that in the filter query box by passing in an object a little bit like this. So hopefully you're excited to see how this will work in an ExpressJS application, and maybe your mind's thinking about how you can use those functions to find documents, insert new ones, and modify or delete existing ones. So in the next lesson, we'll set up a simple ExpressJS application that will do just that using the MongoDB library.